Hi, my name is Gus Moore. Today I'd like to talk to you about industrial hemp. In particular, that it is the best source, by far, in all manner of ways. From harvesting, from growing, harvesting, production, and quality, duration, and archival purposes. Here I'm holding a book that I bought at a collectibles store sometime in the early 90s. And I've had this around with me just in plain open area, like this bookshelf here, when I lived in the state of Washington, which, as you know, Western Washington has a lot of humidity. I lived there for quite a few years. After I bought this, I was still there for a good 8 years or so. Then I've hauled it around, unprotected, not covered up in any way, and still there is no bacteria growing in it, no fungus. Smells like a book should. The minute you put your nose to this and smell it, you go, wow. Now, this book was published in, hold on to your hats, 1921. 1921. It is called The International Library of Technology, Volume 271. And you can see right down here at the bottom, 1921. Okay? This book is unbelievably in good shape. And like I said, I haven't given this book any special treatment, right? Now, most of you are familiar with the fact that a lot of books over the last, 20 years, maybe longer, deteriorate pretty quickly. You might have, the ones that I've seen that go bad soonest are like computer manuals. They're usually these secondary level, not put out by the actual company that created the program or the hardware, the software or the hardware. Because for some reason those manuals are really cryptic. And they never bother to come out with a manual that, at least that I've seen, they never bother to come out with an official manual for it. It's second parties and third parties that use the computer with the really cryptic index-like manuals and figure out what's going on, and then they put it in an average person user-friendly format and language with pictures and stuff, and then they print their own books and sell those. Those manuals, they use an acid-based ink, so after a while you can barely touch the book for very long, and certainly you want to keep it at a distance, and it's like, I don't know about you, but I can feel it. And a lot of them smell, well, I just don't want to say it, but ura. There's like the smell of ura. It's acidic, and it's just, or you get the other kind where the pulp of the page seems to be falling apart, and it's the dust that's coming off of it is like a very almost undetectable but noticeable to your senses. It's like dusty pulp. The pulp itself is falling apart, right? And you see that there are spots in them from like bacteria growing in them and whatever. And these books are only like 5 to 10 years old, right? This book has been around since 1921, and it is in perfect condition. This is awesome. And I'm the type of person that I would love to read newspapers. I really would. But I seldom ever find a newspaper that I can actually hold for very long, because I start feeling itchy, and whatever the chemical smells off of these things are, I can't read newspapers. I can't hold the newspaper for more than 3 to 5 minutes, and then every once in a while there's an article that's so I gotta read it that I force myself, but mostly I just don't. I can't do it, and I don't want to do it. It's just irritating. But this, I literally have to go. Okay, now I can smell it. So how far is that? That's like an inch, right? And it smells just fine. It smells like a book should. Especially one that's how old? 95 years old, I think. Here's another one from the same series. It too is in perfect condition. And I didn't buy from a second-hand shop, a collectible store that had these hermetically sealed and under glass and all the air out of it. No. This was just out with all the other groups, a Pulp Fiction from this, that, and the other place, and music from 1909. It was just all laying around. Okay, no, and in the state of Washington with that high humidity. Awesome, absolutely awesome, right? Now, as it turns out, again, 1921. The International Library of Technology. Okay, so I did a little bit of research, and as it turns out, if you look up industrial hemp on the YouTube, you'll find videos that tell you all about industrial hemp. It used to be that all the sails on ships used to be made out of the fiber of the industrial hemp plant, which looks like a sugar cane, kind of, it's just a big, tall grass. So all the sails and all the ships, all the ropes used to be made out of it, including those big fat ones that they use for ships, because they just make twine and they make a little thread, and then the thread, wound around another thread becomes a string, and the string on another string becomes twine, and then the twine wrapped in others around a bunch of others becomes a rope, and the rope tied in around other ropes becomes a big thick rope. So any size thickness of rope you want, they used to make out of hemp. It turns out the original blue jeans were made out of industrial hemp. It turns out all the tents were made out of, you guessed it, industrial hemp. And all the paper that they used to make to write on, including books, and including the Constitution of these United States, which of course is why I'm wearing my constitutional tie today. all the printed paper was industrial hemp, and it turns out that industrial hemp paper is the best archival paper, because hemp has a natural antibacterial. It's a low dose, just enough to keep the plant happy, healthy, and alive, and ward off any of attackers in terms of molds and bacteria and stuff that would hurt the plant. So that is in the paper, and that's why you don't get degeneration, or in terms of biological degeneration from attack from those other pathogens, I suppose we call. So anyway, to sum up, let me say this. We need to contact, we, the readers of books, need to contact industrial hemp companies. Now, most of those are in Canada. Now, I know there are some in Europe too, and I don't know, I think maybe New Zealand or Australia or something, I don't know, but Canada has huge industrial hemp farms. We need to contact industrial hemp companies and say, hey, when are you guys going to get together and start producing books printed on industrial hemp? Starting off with the classic and most important books throughout history. Put those out first, because those are the ones that people are going to want to keep reading, probably as long as people read. You know, things like Plato's Republic. And, you know, do your own homework on what you think the most important books throughout all history have been. And so that's the first thing we need to do. In addition to that, we should contact companies that could be producing industrial hemp here in the United States and or can import the paper and do stuff with it. So anyway, I'm going to be contacting myself. I'm going to be contacting some of these companies, finding out what they are, and I will put in the notes underneath this video links to websites to these people and phone numbers. Well, I don't know if I'll put phone numbers because phone numbers change, maybe not, but in any case, links to their websites so you can look them up, contact them and say, hey, I'm tired of having books that chemically fall apart on me and I can't even read them after a while. You go to the library, and how many books in the library these days? Any librarians and contact your library. Contact your library systems and your library associations and tell them, hey, why don't you guys start requesting from industrial hemp companies that somebody amongst their business associates start thinking about producing industrial hemp paper books. Anyway, thank you for your time.